Hello, everybody. So we are online to speak about relationships. So we started a new project about relationships secrets unlocked, and we are 5 women coming together from different background, from different approach, just to talk to you about relationship, love, and how can you make your love better. We are so different and we have so different ideas about what can happen in your life and in your private life. You are welcome to ask all questions you might have. You're welcome to offer your topics you want us to speak about. But now we start, of course, with introductions. And we tell about ourselves and what we are doing and how can we help you. Julie, you're first.
So hello viewers, my name is Julie Fitzpatrick and I'm the founder of Milliside Therapy and Coaching, and I mainly support business owners and professionals to uncover the root beliefs behind what's holding them back so that they can become truly unstoppable.
Hi everyone, I'm Anne Hellgren. I'm the founder of Anne Hellgren Coaching. I'm also a relationship expert and host of a podcast called The Love You Want. I have a real passion of helping people find and attract the right kind of relationships for themselves. And I believe the best way to do that is working on yourself first.
Hello everyone, my name is Ghazala Salim. I'm the founder of Muslim Matrimonial Coach and Love Connection. My role is mainly an educational role of getting people to understand themselves better first. So self-discovery before you take or embark onto a new relationship. Working mainly for the Muslim community.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Claire. I live in Northern Ireland and I am the CEO of Terra Community Divorce and Relationship Coaching. And my passion is to help you become unstuck, to understand what are the dynamics in your relationship, what are the things that are good, what are the things that are not so good. And if you can understand rather than feel confused about something, how do you get unstuck and go forward? And a divorce and relationship breakup is pretty rubbish. So if you had support, if you had someone to show you what you can't yet see, what might that feel like? That's what I bring to you.
And I'm Ksenia Drobman. I'm international matchmaker and dating coach. I've been in this profession for 25 years. And my passion is different events. And I use every event, online, offline, for my people to learn something new about communication skills. Because you can build great relationship only if you can communicate. And this is this is our meeting and our topic for today. We want to speak about love at first sight. It's really interesting thing for me as matchmaker because I saw this love several times over 25 years. And I personally don't believe in love at first sight because I never had it, but I saw it on my clients. And it was really interesting thing. I asked men, when did you feel this special feeling you would like to marry this person and to stay with her together? And how long did you need to understand that it's the right decision? And men who got married, they said, so I had this feeling, she's special one, she's for me on the first meeting, and the first second, I decided. But I needed time to understand that my decision is right. Yeah. Okay, Julie, what do you think about it? Have you ever had the love at first sight?
I have.
Oh,
yeah. Okay, so I have to admit, on my second marriage, and before I met Andy, my current husband, I would have said it was a load of old rubbish. Don't know what you're talking about, blah blah blah, Miss Negative. But I actually met my husband through a dating app, and when we did the initial email, then we did a phone call, and eventually we met up for the first time. So I guess we kind of already had built up a little bit of a relationship, but we didn't speak for very, very long. Anyway, we met at this pub, and literally as we walked in the room, we both said the same thing. It was like our eyes locked, and it was like, oh my God, that's amazing. And we just seemed to really, really connect. I mean, he went all out, and we had scampi and chips for dinner, 2 for £1. So he went really, really big out on that. But we had such an amazing time. At the end of the evening, we had the staff saying, "Excuse me, do you think you could leave now? Because we'd like to go home." Because the night just, like went like that, and it was just fabulous. So yeah, I do believe it. And I think it's one of those things that you kind of have to have gone through it to believe it. A little bit like whether you believe in ghosts and things like that. But yeah, I believe it is a thing. And yeah, touch wood. We're really, really happy still. And we've been together about 14 years now.
So how long were you going out then, Julie, before you talked about getting married? Listen to what you're saying.
Long time. We've only been married about 7 years, because he'd been married before as well. So it was something that neither of us were that bothered about doing. And you're going to be really upset with me now for what I'm going to say after about everything else. But the reason it came about getting married was I'd had a meeting with my financial advisor, and he was just going, "No, you're not." And it was like, "Oh," he went, "Maybe it's something you should think about." So then that's what came home and broke the subject, and we went, "Oh, yeah, maybe we will, maybe we won't." And then we went through the whole what we're going to do, because we've both done it before. But in the end, we settled on, we went on a cruise around the Caribbean, got married in St. Thomas. And we had our boys with us, because he's got a son, I've got a son. So his son was our best man. My son gave me away. And we had 6 of our friends with us. And it was just the most amazing time we had. So, yeah. But he did move in fairly quickly, mind you. So, I don't know.
Lots of lovely stories, and it's nice when you can have stories like that to tell about yourself with your personal experiences. I mean, the question of, does love at first sight actually exist? For me, I think, having gone through, I've been married 3 times, as many people know, divorced twice. And yes, love does exist, but love exists in different ways. I think the perception about love, we've grown up watching Disney and these fairy tales, with the Cinderella and Snow White and all these, love stories that we've seen growing up. And I think we want that for ourselves. And we imagine that when we're going to meet our partner that we're going to be sharing our lives with, there's going to be those sparks and those fireworks, and there's going to be that twinkle in the eye, and that's it, we're going to connect with that person and we're going to live happily ever after. I think going into my 3rd marriage, I mean, I love my husband, but there's some level of caution, because what you've been through before, and there's a possibility that things can go wrong, and in relationships they quite often go wrong, but having the right sort of strategy to deal with it, because love is there, but love is a process. It's something that we kind of live with every day, and love grows as we get closer to each other, we start trusting each other, we connect with each other, communicate, share our inner thought with the individual, because we can't mind read people. We can't, that's when we communicate with people of what we're feeling, that they can see things. So my take on love at first sight is that I don't think it really actually exists. I think we have an imagination of maybe when we see somebody, this guy is, maybe we find them attractive, or we find them some sort of, connection with them, that we feel that we need to, we expect that, this must be love at first sight. We feel some chemistry, those sparks that we feel with them, and we think, that's love at first sight. But I've been there, done that. I think there needs to be a little bit of caution, really. And I think love only happens over a period of time. It's a journey. And, I think when you get to know somebody, you celebrate several different events with them. They might be happy events. They might be, sad events, loss of a person, that can also connect you better with your partner as well. That's my take on it. So
I have, so it's, we have
I was waiting for your hand to go up.
Wait, no. We are like team. We have one person in our group who believes in light at first sight, and two who don't really. So we make it competition clear.
Yeah. It's nice to feel that love at first sight, but I think in reality, sometimes when people say it was love at first sight, but look at the level of divorce that's going on as well.
Okay,
love should be something that should be lasting. It should be something, a lifetime commitment. If you love somebody,
wait. It's Claire's topic about love and divorce.
So I was sitting here mulling over, thinking now, is there a difference, or what is the difference between love at first sight and attraction at first sight? So I agree, Ghazala. I think love is a process. It grows, it changes, we evolve, it evolves, our connection changes, deepens, pulls away. I mean, we're all human. It's never going to be wonderful all the time. And if we don't realign our expectations, well, we're just in for, it's like what they say in the south of Ireland, you're up the liffey without a paddle. So, it's like, it's one of those things where you, understanding that love needs to be worked at. It needs input, it needs time, it needs attention, it needs to be nurtured, it needs to be, we have this ability in life that we sometimes think other people should know what we're thinking and should know what we want. And then we get disappointed and then we get upset and then all of these things tumble in. I think it's absolutely possible to have attraction at first sight. And actually, I do think it's possible to have love at first sight as the initial spark, but it doesn't last. It needs to be worked at, and it needs to be sort of going through a little bit more of a, right, okay, so there's one connection. So when I look at things now, I go, what are the pillars? So pillars can be things like things that, are you spiritually connected? Are you connected because of intellect? What are the things that connect you? And if you imagine a stool with 4 pillars, how many of the pillars have you got, something together with? And if one of them is down, like in, say, whether it's intellect that you don't like reading and your partner does, can you pull one of the other pillars up higher to keep it all balanced? Or what can you do to enter into their world and go, well, let me try this, let me just see. So it's a process and it's a growth and it's a change, but everything starts somewhere. So I am the absolute, yes, absolutely. I think love at first sight does exist. But I think understanding what that means is maybe slightly different. So I try and expand it out, because when I work with my clients, there is no client that I have worked with that's on a divorce journey that I don't go, right, okay, so you're going to bring you into your next relationship. Do you want the same experience? Because we get to own the reality that we live in inside of our heads and inside of our emotions. And I look back on my marriage, because I'm divorced, and I think, right, what was I responsible for? What would I like to change going forward? And I have done a lot of inner work in lots of different ways to go, well, actually, I think I bring a much better version of me to the table now in relation to people that I meet, because my expectations have changed, my understanding of me has changed, my understanding of how to process triggers and all of those things. I've looked at that and gone, I think I want to pull it out a little bit. I also have different ability to look at conflict resolution, because conflict isn't the issue. It's how do we resolve it? How do we repair? So these are the things that I think are part of a process of love. But everything starts somewhere. And can it happen at first sight? Of course. It's what we do with it that allows it to continue or go down a divorce pathway or whatever else. That's my take.
So I don't believe, yeah.
1 second, because otherwise I will forget. Claire, really interesting topic you mentioned, because there are about 50% people getting divorced in their first marriage. It's everywhere in the world. But about second marriage, 78% people stay in. So it means, like you said, I brought into my new marriage new knowledge, new experience.
Yeah, the learning, the growth, the change. Yeah.
Absolutely. And as such, it's a very good point you bring there about the second marriage statistics. But what I wanted to say is I actually wanted to break this down a bit further. So I personally don't really believe in love at first sight. I think there is love at first. So let me get a bit more nitty gritty about the terms. I believe in attraction at first sight. I believe in lust at first sight. And I think attraction and lust are different. Chemistry. So for me, attraction, it's like oh, I'm really finding this person beautiful, or the way what they're speaking about is beautiful. I'd love to get them. I'd love to know them more and deeper. So I'd love to build a relationship with them. I'd love to get to know what they're really about. And that for me is the attraction side of things. And then there is the lust side of things, where you're not necessarily interested in getting to know them on a deeper level. You just look at them and there's a sexual attraction towards them. There's a lust towards them that you might experience. But it's not really about, oh, do I want to take you out on a date? Do I want to get to know you on a deeper level, get to know your likes and wants? And then there is love. And I think that is definitely built over time. I've been also divorced, which is a common theme amongst this panel. And I think it enriches us because, first of all, I think we can put our hands up and go, actually, that relationship didn't work. But because it didn't work as well, it's given me an opportunity, like Claire was saying, for growth, for self-reflection. And I definitely went on that journey as well, getting to understand, why didn't that marriage work? Because I think sometimes as well, if we don't look at what part did we play, there's no growth, and it's not helping your clients either. It's just such a huge knock-on effect in total as coaches, human beings. But I think love is something that definitely takes time to build. And I think, so I'm going to take it from a bit more like a Christian perspective. They say where love is patient, love is kind, love is forgiving. And these are things I think you build over time. It's especially when someone hurts you. And we all know that your partners, no matter how much they love you, sometimes they can really hurt you, not intentionally. It doesn't need to be intentionally, but that's the human experience of being in a relationship. If you love someone, you'll find the patience, the forgiveness, all of those lovely traits that come with love. But will you really find that on the first date with someone if they really do something to hurt you? So this is what I mean. Like, will you really
hurt you on a first date? I don't think someone can hurt you necessarily too much on a first date, because they don't know you well enough. You haven't invested, you haven't become vulnerable. What do you think about that, Anne? They
might hurt you in terms of their behavior. So let's say, for example, you go out for dinner and it's a first date, and someone is extremely rude and makes derogative remarks, whether about your gender, your age, your religion, where you come from, your race, whatever. So it still can be hurtful. Like if
they wouldn't get a second date, though, would they?
No, they wouldn't get a second date for sure. Of course not. But it's still, even a stranger can hurt you to some degree. It won't hurt you it won't cut us, and you won't bleed the same way as someone you know and love, but it can still be hurtful. And that's why, comments made by strangers are still hurtful and still carry within us, even if we don't even know them. People can still hurt you on the first date, depending on how bad it is.
Here where there's, I guess, three of us that are saying that we don't really believe that love at first sight sort of exists, and there's two of us that are saying that it does. Okay, so I'm just looking at it from a different angle now. When you meet somebody, I know that it's just an attraction or something that maybe lust that you find within that person, because to really know that person, you need to know what their behavior is like, what their attitude is like, what their, you're not going to find that on the first date, because a person initially does not present themselves as their real self when they meet you for the first time. They're bringing their representative in front of you. Okay, so they're going to be behaving in a way that they wouldn't be behaving in a normal way. Yes, there are these sparks and what have you, but sometimes when you start seeing the real person, the real person, they present themselves as who they really are. That's who you then decide whether you can love that person or you cannot love that person. So I don't believe that meeting somebody for the first time, you're not going to be presenting as yourself and they're not going to be presenting, because you're going to be a representative of yourself. An analogy was one of the was given. Yeah. If you remember Simpsons, you know, there was a show on Simpsons where there's this attractive lady that goes into, I think it was a barber's or something, and then they all kind of like, you know, really pull their stomach in, so they're presenting themselves as these nice slim guys, yeah, and then when she goes out, they all let their bellies come out as well. So then, are you going to be attracted to that, or are you going to be, you know, so they're going to be coming as somebody that they're not really are, not really who they are.
I want to add a little bit science, because many people, especially in matchmaking, dating apps, matchmaking agencies, they come to us with expectation to find this spark, love, emotion, lust, and all passion. But the science says that for happy, strong, long-term relationship, love is not necessary. So it's good to have, but more likely you will stay together with somebody with same values, with same expectations, like Claire said, about reading, about traveling, about, you know, similar hobbies, not the same, but something similarities. And love, it's not normal condition for us, because it's triggering us some animals inside of us. And what I always say to my clients, because I have really situations where people discuss their wedding, they discuss wedding without seeing each other, just seeing each other over the videos. They decide already to plan their life together. I cannot get it, but you know, there are a lot of people like this. And I always say, you know, never make any decision, never take any decision in this love condition. Wait, it's slow down.
It's like a dopamine hit, isn't it? It's like a hormone thing. Yeah.
And then you can think again, and then you can take decisions or make decisions. Julie, you sorry.
As an advocate for love at first sight, obviously, you know, I don't disagree with some of the things you've all said, right? But I do also feel that there's a part of you all, the ones that are disagreeing with it, is because you haven't had it. Point number one. Doesn't mean just because you haven't experienced something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I don't necessarily say I've seen a ghost. Doesn't mean they don't exist, right? So I think that's point number one. But for me, I would say that when we first met, there was that instant connection, but that connection carried on. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't get up now and go, oh, but sometimes I do. I'll be watching him and I'll go, oh, you're just so amazing, especially when I see him like interacting with my friends, or I can put him in a situation and I know he will always come out on top on it, and I feel like I can do that as well. So I think that we as personalities and values are very aligned. So yeah, you do have to have your values aligned, and I think maybe because we've both been there before, you know, we kind of knew, you know, a little bit more about yourself. I mean, I was nearly 40 when I met him, so I'd like to think that I've been around and knew a little bit more about myself. Not anywhere near the person I am now, by the way, because that journey's kind of happened since, and he's been on that journey with me, and that could have so easily have been awkward, because when you invest in yourself and you go on that journey and not everyone's going with you, sometimes you can like put that, you know, that gap can get bigger. I'm not saying that everything's been perfect. I'm not saying it's been rainbows and unicorns all the time, because it hasn't. And because we both had children, we've had to deal with that blended family scenario, and my goodness, that caused a lot. And then I also went through the menopause as well. So throw that in, being a stressed, overworked business, well, I wasn't a business owner then, professional, you know, throw that all into the equation. There's been times when it's been tricky. However, our values are still stayed aligned, and we still talk to each other. We still make sure we take time for each other. Again, I'm not saying it's perfect and we could do more, but that bond that we had on that very first date, I would say, is still with us.
So what I'm hearing, Julie, from what you're saying, is that you had that initial sort of attraction, and I don't know that the word maybe makes a big difference. What I heard was that you wanted to find out more about each other and you wanted to spend more time together. Is that correct? Yeah. So for me, that's the thing. Is there that thing that you actually, both of you equally want to actually find out more, become a little bit more involved, spend a bit more time together, there's something that draws that. And sometimes we try and logic it out when actually maybe we don't need to logic it out. Maybe we just need to go with the feeling for a bit, because our head can get in the way an awful lot in life. You know, that whole thing of trusting your gut and not trusting your gut. And what I talk to my clients about is, you know, did your gut if you're in a marriage that's broken down, let's look back at the evidence pathway. Is there a gut feeling that at any point you thought, maybe there's a bit of an issue? Because our gut is usually really accurate for us, and it's a really good guide. So with the initial thing, if you meet someone, you know, is what's your gut saying, and where do you go with that? And just keep checking into what you know to be something that has served you well in the past. Maybe that's a good way to phrase it. But I hear that there's something that started, and then you both decided to bring it on further into another level.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you just reminded me about something as you were talking there. What we did do was, because we both had past relationships, as most people do, we did inadvertently bring those into our relationship. And a couple of times he would say to me, I'm not Kevin, and I go, I'm not Annette. You know, because there were certain elements in our life, and that did cause conflict, because we live in our lives with learnt behaviour, right? So it's our previous marriage wounds, but it's also our mother and father wounds from when we were children. And it's about making sure that we're all meeting our emotional needs. And sometimes
it's also about expectations, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, when you know,
patterns.
Yeah. It's about expectations and patterns. So if your ex-partner in a previous relationship or marriage did something, you might, unbeknownst to yourself, expect somebody to do the same and then get annoyed or frustrated or upset. But having conversations around expectations, that's what increases the connection, which is, to me, what increases the ability to love someone. And I'd love to pick up on something you said, Ksenia, which is, you know, that science has proven that you don't need love. I would be thinking, what is the definition of love that they say you don't need?
Because there is love like passion. So what's happening when we are hormones,
right?
And there is love like friendship.
Yeah.
And
so it's just, what's the meaning of the word? Yeah.
Yes. And more likely people stay together not because of love, passion, and we stay in bed 24 hours and we cannot live without each other. It's less likely, because in this condition you are not able to think, you are not able to understand if this person is right for my happiness, for my well-being. There are hormones. But when it slows down and you can think again, then you can make decisions about staying together or moving forward with this person. But many people decide in this moment. I have now one wedding on the 9th of November. On one side, I have to be happy because it's like ticking box, one more wedding in my agency, but they have known each other for 3 months. I don't believe it. I don't believe it, that it's possible to know the person well in 3 months.
So it's funny you say that, Ksenia, because I've been engaged twice, been divorced once. My first engagement, he proposed 7 months into the relationship. The second, no, 6 months, around 6 months. The second one was 7 months into the relationship. We got married 8 months into the relationship. Granted, it ended up in a divorce. But I think, you know, to your point as well, when we're talking about what does a relationship need, and going back to the science that you were mentioning there and Claire brought up, I believe that for a marriage to work, there has to be love, but not lust, not, as you're saying, not this passion 24/7. I want to breathe the air you breathe 24/7. First of all, I would find that very suffocating. For someone to always want to be with me 24/7. Like, you go do your thing, have a life outside our marriage, have your own friends, have your own, even if we work together, but, you know, go to the gym, go meet your friends, whatever, have a life that's not always attached to each other. And also the friendship, the love that I think is essential is that kind of deeper love, that one I was saying, the values of love. You know, how do you care for this person? How do you treat this person? How do you forgive them? Are you compassionate? Are you patient? All these traits, I think, are the ones, and many more, that make for love in my eyes. and make the relationship work on the long term. Forgiveness being a very big one as well. It's not judgmental as well, another big one as well. But it's the last for a certain amount of time. Having said that, I'm always telling my clients as well, try and make sure you treat your partner the way you also, it's not going to happen 24/7, but the way you treated them in the beginning of your relationship, make sure you treat them like that every now and then. Otherwise, you end up in a situation that feels more like a roommate, and people just start taking people for granted. It's like, yes, I love you, but I can also love a roommate, right? We can also be best friends as roommates. But is the passion gone? And is the passion gone because we don't treat each other the way we did in the beginning of the relationship?
I give similar advice to think about wedding day. Because wedding day, it's always this peak of emotions and romantic. And if relationship goes wrong, what's happening in our normal life, just think about the special day, white dress, and his like beautiful groom, and think about this romantic, and it really helps to reboot.
I guess the question is as well, which around this whole question of love at first sight. If we look at in certain cultures, I know it happened in my culture as well, like previously, not so much now, and I know it happens in other cultures as well, where you have like, and I have this actually in my friends, one in particular who had an arranged marriage. But when she came from Pakistan and she came here, and she obviously she'd never been in a relationship before that, as was their custom and culture. And so I asked her, because I was so curious. I asked her, like, so how was that experience? You know, like you're promised to someone, you're supposed to be getting engaged, and we all dream of being with someone that we love, right? And she was like, to be honest with you, it was difficult because I'd never had any other experience of a relationship, but she did feel a very immediate attraction to him. And they had seen each other, they had seen pictures of each other, they've spoken on the phone. But she said she had so this is the physical attraction I'm talking about before, where we say there's attraction, there's lust, and there's love. She had a very physical attraction to him, which made it very easier for her to form a deeper, loving relationship with him.
I think,
which I found quite
yeah, I'd like to add there. I mean, you're talking about the Pakistani community, and that's the community that I come from. So it's quite, it was quite a common practice, even up until very recently, where, the families kind of like find the compatible match they act as the matchmaker, typical matchmaker, finding the right person for you to get married to. And quite often, I mean, if we look at my grandmother's marriage, when this happened, she'd never seen my grandfather. Okay, they actually met. It was very similar to the scientific experiment they do with married at first sight, and this actually happened with my grandmother. And but they felt that there would be a good connection between the two of them. They were very good looking, they were both from really good, respectful families. The values were the same, the ideals were the same. So they obviously got married, and they had a very good life. They had a really they worked on their marriage. And I think the love came after the marriage. I mean, some people might have difficulty understanding this and thinking, how can you marry somebody that you don't love? But certain things happen in your life, certain events happen in your life that may help you to connect with the person better. And the divorce rate within arranged marriages has been less than love marriages. And I think the reason for that is the expectations. When people are getting married in arranged marriages, there's a family connection, and families are supporting. There are support network there to make sure that it's successful. And when they do have their ups and downs, the whole family gets together and acts as a coach or as a a mentor to sort of support them and help them. And marriages have been successful over the years. If you look at statistics, up until very recently, people who have been in arranged marriages, their marriages have been successful. And if you ask them, they're very deeply in love as well. But it's more of a respect thing rather than, and when they respect each other, they trust each other, they feel that that is what love is, because you have so much respect for that person. You have so much, you've got trust with that person. That's where love actually happens. That's what love is all really about. And this passion that we were talking about earlier, that this passion and this, it's a bit of craziness, isn't it? This is more like the crazy love that people can have. That's not very healthy. That doesn't really help your relationship. There's jealousy and other things that can perhaps kick in when you're at that stage of that level of love, what if you want to call it, and that's not really good for relationships as well. So I think there needs to be a balance of things. That's my take on that. So,
like in the school, we do it like
I think that's all very, very true, and I totally agree with that, which is why it's our responsibility as an individual to make sure that we work on ourselves first and foremost before we even embark on these relationships. Because if you think about family and friends in your friendship groups, right? You look at you do, because you can't help it. You look inside and you see trying to have a look to see what's going on, right? But I know, and we know with all the training that we've got, that you can actually see something different when you're looking in at other people's relationships. And especially if you know, like maybe their families, their parents, their past relationships, you will see a pattern, and it goes all back to what kind of attachment they've had as a child. It goes back to what emotional needs they've got. But really, it's that's following that belief pattern. And people will bring things into their relationships that they shouldn't do, not necessarily consciously. You could bring in like a narcissistic behavior. You could bring in, bring into a relationship that you might have grown up with a parent perhaps that left. And as a child, you always felt that was your fault, but of course it wasn't. They didn't leave you; they left your partner, the mum or dad. And that one that's left, what are they teaching you? What morals are they giving you about that left parent? And then so say the father went, right, now with the mum, they could be told all sorts of stories about the dad that may or may not be true. And when that child goes into their own relationship, then they've got the wounds from, say it's a woman that goes into another relationship and her dad left. She could potentially be treating her husband in the same way that her father treated the mum, but this husband's not the dad, and you're bringing all that in, and actually can cause a lot of conflict. And I know Claire would have seen that a lot, being a divorce coach, and I see that so much when I work with my clients, because everything revolves about what's your relationships like in life, in love, in work, and it all, with your children, it all comes down to what emotional needs you've got, what wounds you're holding. And that's why it's so important that we invest in ourselves before we even try to get in a relationship.
Definitely.
I just have to say really quickly on that, Julie, you bring a really good point about the kind of attachments, the patterning that we have our childhood experience. Then it affects our attachment styles as well that we end up with. And I want to play a little bit devil's advocate here and just kind of ask everyone, do you think, because I totally think, looking even back now at my own upbringing and my own attachment styles were definitely affected by the divorce of my parents, being sent off to a boarding school when I was quite young, didn't see my parents for like 1.5 years. No one came to visit me. I know, looking back, it definitely formed an attachment style that I took on to my adulthood, but I didn't realize that, right? Because I was still a child, that I had this attachment and fear of abandonment. So it's not surprising I said yes to an engagement so quick very often, because I was like, yes, love me, don't leave me, love me, don't leave me, kind of attachment style, a very desperate, anxious attachment style. And I wonder, I mean, obviously with the years and time, having recognized that, I've worked on that, and it's something I help my clients as well to identify the attachment style. and if it serves them or if it's actually damaging their relationships. But what I want to ask, do you think as well your attachment style can determine how fast you fall in love with someone? You know, talking about love at first sight. Do you think that if you have a desperate need to be loved, you're more likely to fall in love with someone than someone who has a secure attachment style? I think it definitely affects how fast you attach to other people and love, whether you call it love. Yeah.
Me first. Me first. Like on the screen. Like on the screen.
Go.
You know, I'm divorced child, and the relationship of my mom and my dad, it wasn't healthy. But in this time in Soviet Union, it was this prediction or something like opinion. If you are a divorced woman, you are bad. So divorce is like women's fault always, even it's not true. Yes, and you know, so he didn't care of me. You know, it was really a lot of drama, but I'm totally absolutely secure, and I can tell about me that I don't really need relationship. It's good to have. It makes the life much better. But even if I stay alone, I will not cry. I will not die, because like we have this comment, you have to love yourself before you can love anyone else.
Mm-hmm.
So I think all this saying I'm so bad or my relationship impacts because of my parents, it's true, but it's only your responsibility what you're doing with your life.
Yeah. Okay, so for me, we're talking about parents now and how their relationship has maybe impacted our relationships, you know, looking at patterns and psychology and what have you. My parents were married quite young, and, you know, they had their share of conflicts and, you know, disagreements. But they always came through with it. They were married for 70 years. And I know that my mom deeply loved my father, and my father was so much in love with my mom as well. But they used to constantly have these little tiffs and these little arguments and these little disagreements. And I think that's okay. That's quite healthy within a relationship, because at the end of the day, you are individual. You are going to give your opinion. You are going to we have disagreements. It just shows that you're not just saying yes, 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 yes to everything just to please the person. You're showing you have your own brain, you have your own mind, you have your own opinion. And, you know, maybe for somebody thinking, oh, being a Muslim woman, maybe she needs to be very, very obedient and what have you, which my mother was. But at the same time, if she disagreed with my father about something, she would share it, you know. And I think my dad used to respect her enough to think, well, okay, I need to understand what her point of view is as well. But that doesn't mean that, okay, you know, they had a happy, successful marriage, you know, being married for almost 70 years until recently my father passed away. I think, you know, sadly passed away September last year. They did have their share of problems. But that doesn't mean that, you know, me going into a relationship, maybe I might have a more secure attachment style. But if your partner doesn't have the same sort of attachment style, then maybe that's where the problem is, because both of you can't be the same and everybody's got a mindset. People want to make their marriages successful. Nobody really goes out to get married to end up in a divorce. That's not something that's likable. And like what Ksenia was saying earlier, when people do have a divorce in certain communities, somebody's to blame. And, you know, in some cultures, it's the woman is to blame. But mainly in the Southeast Asian culture, a lot of the times I would say that, you know, in recent years, it's been the guy that's been blamed for, you know, the end of the marriage, because it's him that is responsible for the household, and he's the one that needs to sort of not control, but, you know, take care of things in a better way. Maybe he's not supporting the wife enough and stuff. Yeah. So different cultures have different ideas about that, really.
I just want to clarify what I meant by with the whole parents thing. It's not necessarily the relationship my parents had with each other, because that was very different with the relationship I had with my parents.
Yeah.
So my attachment style will be formed, and people's attachment styles are formed by the relationship they have with their parents or their caregiver, the person who was responsible for bringing them up, not necessarily the couple itself, because it's a very different relationship.
Of course.
But I'm wondering as well whether we, going back to the topic, love at first sight, do we think that our own attachment styles, wherever they've come from, whether it's a childhood, teenage, our relationships as grown-ups, do we think that it has an influence on whether we believe, quite frankly, in love at first sight or not?
Can I, I'm going to jump into that one. So one of the things that struck me is, before I started sort of doing and learning and changing my career direction into this from nursing, I didn't know what attachment style meant. I didn't understand what it meant in the first place. Like it was a term, so I didn't understand it. So to explain what that would be is, it's what do we internalize something to mean? Because if you have a parent who left, say your father left and you're a young girl, there might be an attachment that might be something to do with, well, dad didn't protect me, it's my fault, so maybe no man will protect me. So we can create a belief that we don't know we're making out of circumstances. So there's what are the facts of the circumstance and what do we determine it to be and to mean in our world. I do think that our backgrounds have a very big influence in how we outwork life, because it's like this underground subconscious paradigm and program that determines how we make decisions and what we want, and what feels safe to me might be very different to what feels safe to you, Anne, and what feels safe to you, Ghazala. So it is very, very individual, in my opinion. So when we come together with somebody else, I look at it and I go, what's the map of the world? So what's your background and what's the other person's background? So with clients I work with, I want to have a picture of that, because the picture of what the dynamics are gives me a clue to know where to go looking for things that we might be able to try and resolve easier and faster when we understand it. So does that make sense? Just to kind of, sort of clarify it out a little bit more, because I know I wouldn't have understood what that meant.
Thanks for that as well, Claire. It's true. Sometimes we use words as coaches and assume that everyone understands what we're saying. So thank you for the clarification.
And can I just say thank you to Beverly for being so interactive with us on this show.
Yeah. Thank you, Beverly.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Jibril, as well.
Yeah. And Claire, I want to say, and since I combine your opinion together, so the problem with coaches and psychologists and dating coaches is we use too much science, and sometimes everything is very simple. I see the person, I would like to know her better, or I would like to know him better, and we stay together like Beverly wrote for 30 years.
Yeah.
And thinking, oh, my attachment style is this, and because of my attachment style,
yeah, we can make it heavy and I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
But I think that's the difference between working on yourself and not working on yourself, though, isn't it? You would go through, and depending on what type of therapy you're at, that you might not come up in conversation still, but the overall impact of what you're doing, because what Claire and I were saying earlier as well was about the belief system that you've got from your childhood. You will be bringing that, whether you like it or not, into your adulthood, right?
Yeah, I feel like I've cleaned out a lot of the stuff that didn't serve me well, because I went looking for it, found it, understood it, and thought, do I want to bring that forward? Do I want to hang on to that belief, or is it something that I internalized as a child? But as an adult, would I like to change that? So that's kind of where I am now. But it took my divorce to do that. I certainly didn't have any of this when I got married. And that's the life learning, isn't it? Like we all learn from all of this. And, for you, Ghazala, in your third marriage, you bring so much more understanding of you and life into this relationship. So in my opinion, it probably has a much better chance, because there's a lot more, a lot less work in the background, I think, sometimes, because a lot of it's kind of been cleared out. I like the phrase cleared out. So.
I would agree with that. And I think through my therapy training over the last few years, I am way better person than I was before, but luckily I was still a pretty good person before that. So it's not a complete,
good. Yeah.
But I think having that knowledge is really useful. Funny enough, I'm always doing therapy training, doing it at the moment, and we have literally just been talking about feminine and masculine energy. And before I didn't really understand any of that. And you don't need to understand it in massive detail, but what we need to understand is masculine and feminine energy is not about whether you're a man or you're a woman. It's about we all have to have a balance of masculine and feminine. And it's when we're off kilter, that's when we need to have a look and see which way are we and which way do we want to adjust. So for me, I was very masculine in terms of like I've always been got to get things done, project manager, got and I've neglected some of my feminine side a little bit. So it's about rebalancing to have a balanced person that you want to be. But it isn't about whether you're a man or a woman. We all have to have the balance.
I think it has to be their topic of our next conversation, because now I'm a big fan of this man, female, and this size. I think we have to do it next time. I'm reading an amazing book, and I'm more than happy to share the knowledge from the book and to share the book. I think. Yeah, it's really great topic about male, female, and how we deal and how to increase male and it's amazing topic. It's Richard.
You're right. We've run out of time.
Yes, it's our next conversation. But for now, we have to finish. So we have now 3 people who don't really believe in the love at first sight. We have 2 people who do, and we have some
everybody believes in love at first sight.
So we have 3 to 3. Nobody won. And I wish all people who will watch this video after we finish our stream, write plus if you believe in love at first sight, and write minus if you don't. Thank you so much, girls, for this amazing conversation. We switch from topic to topic, and I thought,
it was good fun.
You're right. Also, before we leave, for anyone, thank you so much for everyone in the chat that's been, adding to the conversation with your comments. Really appreciate you all. We're seeing some coming in at the last minute here, and we'll definitely check on the messages once we've logged out. And if you'd like to share this on whatever platforms you're listening to this on, share it with someone you feel would value the conversation. Or also just make sure to join us on the next one as well, so they can join us in the next conversation. That would be much appreciated.
Topic they want to talk about.
Yes.
We have already 1 minus in common.
Very good.
Love at first sight.
Yes, push them.
We'll have to get some badges made.
Okay, so again, for everybody who will stay till the end of this video, you write plus in the comments if you believe in love at first sight, and write minus if you don't. And next time, hopefully, you will write more questions and more comments, because we are really very excited about our new podcast. We are 5 women, 5 coaches from different approaches, from different backgrounds. And for us, it's great fun to share our ideas and our knowledge with you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.